morning, everyone, and welcome to Wake Up with the Consciousness Cafe. My name is Lisa Ferraro. I am the founder and spiritual director of SoulCall Ministries. And this morning, we are so excited to welcome Arianna Zukerman. Welcome to the program.
Thank you, Lisa. It's lovely to be here.
And Arianna is the director of Young Artists of America Classical Voice Program. And you do various other things, but first, just let me say, from vocalist to vocalist, your voice is so powerful and moving. It's such a privilege to listen to you sing and to be able to have a conversation with you this morning. Thanks for making the time.
It's my pleasure, and I literally couldn't go home if I didn't do it because my sister would kill me. I'm kidding. I'm totally kidding about that too.
The name recognition, Natalia Zukerman, of course, is our artistic director, creativity director for SoulCall Ministries, and does too many things to name. And you're both so amazing and brilliant and talented and funny too. It's fun to talk with you off camera. But we were talking a little bit about your soul's calling as a vocalist. And we know you come from an understatement of the year here, a musical family. But what called to you from the inside? How did you know it was going to be voice out of all the things?
I think quite honestly, it might have been about the costumes more than anything else. I've always loved playing dress up, and there's a huge element of dress up in the world of classical singing. I always loved the sound of singing. And in fact, so my sister and I grew up in a musical family, and we always had great music around us.
Yeah.
But I think she feels similarly to me, that we went to a wonderful progressive elementary school called the Bank Street School.
Wow.
And we had a winter revels every year where we sang, Here Comes the Sun, and fantastic. It was fantastic. And we had 3 teachers who got up and sang in 3-part harmony. And I thought it was the most beautiful sound I'd ever heard in my life.
Yeah.
And because it was mine, because I owned it, because it was my school, and I was so proud. Yeah. And that kind of singing, Talia and I always, we would sing in the car all the time too. We had a house, we lived in Manhattan, we had a house in Connecticut, and we would drive up to Connecticut and, 5 minutes in would ask how much longer. And my dad would always go 20 minutes, which is just long enough to be too long. And we sang songs from The Sound of Music, and there's a great duet the sisters sing in Wonderful Town called Ohio that we sing on a loop track. I'm sure my parents wanted to punch both of us by the time we got to Connecticut. But that feeling of 2 voices coming together, I've always gives me peace.
Yeah.
And I prefer, quite honestly, in large settings in an opera, or even in oratorio, which means soloists and an orchestra and a chorus. I love the duets and trios more than the solos, more than the arias. The opportunity to make music like that is I'm always grateful for.
We were talking a little bit about do you believe that the voice was the first instrument? Some people say that.
Some people say the drum, some people say the voice. I don't know. I mean, you hear your mother's heartbeat.
Yeah. In
utero. And so then it makes sense to me that the drum was first, but you also hear your mother's voice first. So I think I'm going to go with singing. It's the chicken or the egg. I'm going with singing.
Yeah. It feels like an honest question in terms of how you kind of put the soundscape of your life together, being able to see and hear resonances. Sometimes other people might miss through the voice. We get this sacred opportunity to feel ourselves vibrating. You were telling me a wonderful story about sitting on stage.
It's sitting during Beethoven's Ninth Symphony, the Ode to Joy, which it's the da da dee 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 dee. It starts in the cellos, and all of them playing together. So it was 8 or 10 people playing together, and my father was conducting, and actually my stepmother was playing the cello. I was about 6 months pregnant, and the cello started, and you can feel the vibration in the floor on a stage usually. And I was 6 months pregnant with my first daughter, and she just went bam, and was she really had it out for me. And she likes Beethoven. She still likes Beethoven, but she really was she was turning somersaults. I could see it. I was pregnant enough that I could see a foot move in my stomach. She would, and my father, I told him, and he said, "How's her rhythm?" I was like, yeah, of course, that's what we're interested in. But everyone's musical.
Yeah.
Everyone's musical.
So just feeling that and then just transferring your passion for it, your ability to do it into teaching and bringing it forth from other people who have younger people who have the passion for it. What's that like? That must feel really powerful to be able to share your passion like that.
It is powerful. It requires a great deal of patience. It requires a little bit of knowledge of psychology because as you open yourself up, as as you're saying, it's like your inner vibration. As you open yourself up to that vibration, it can feel really vulnerable.
Mhm.
And if you're 18 years old and you've never had that experience, it's gonna churn things up. It did for me,
Yeah.
and it does for my students. And so, sometimes and because this is an instrument in here that you can't see,
Mhm.
um, it takes a kind of a coordination of muscle memory that it just takes time to teach and time to establish. Um, and it's not like you can leave it on the like if it's a violin, you can leave it on the woodworking bench and come back the next day and start where you left. You're really building the instrument.
Mhm.
Um, you wake up in the morning and you think, where am I today? Did
Yeah.
I do some yelling at like at a sports event or perhaps at a partner, or did I like what happened the day before that changes the mechanism today? Hormones change it, unfortunately. Salty food can change, like anything that causes swelling in your body causes swelling in your throat and
Yep.
in the muscles around your throat. And so it takes a lot of patience, and then it takes trial and error, and it takes figuring out what works for you. And I always say to my students, look, I can tell you pink elephant, and you can tell me green tiger. And I'm going to say if green tiger makes that sound, it's going to be green tiger. It's not about what I feel, it's about what you feel. And so I work really hard. You have to work with analogies like pink elephants and green tigers, um, so that you get to figure out which muscles these are. And I must say, actually, my daughters are about to be 7 and 9, and I have learned more about singing through them actually than in it enhances what I know about singing. And so that's a sort of full circle thing, because the real calling of my soul right now are these two little girls. I
Yeah.
mean, mostly because I'm also teaching first and fourth grade a little bit, but
With it.
oh
When I hear
yeah.
you talk about how to get it out of another person, there's a certain degree of passion you have to have to be able to go with it to bring it out of another human. So it's really a gift to be able to sing and teach. So and thank you for doing it because I think about
Oh,
my teachers when I was younger and they helped to bring it out. It is a special gift and a certain degree of psychology to help us through the frustration of it and all that other kind of stuff.
and I think also you talk about like a sacred trust. There's a sacred trust between a
Yeah.
teacher and a student. And I think that the trust actually for me, in large part because a lot of my generation of teachers were larger than life people. They
Yeah.
were the gods. They were the people. I can't do it without my teacher. And the truth of the matter is, if you can't do it without your teacher, you can't do it.
Mhm.
So this was a lesson that was hard won for me,
Uh-huh.
um, and one that I demand of my students, that you don't need. I'm trying to teach myself out of a job, so that you come back to check in as you go off and start to, like fly butterfly, as
Yeah.
you go off and do your thing. Check in. I have a student, actually, he's in Berlin right now. He's a good friend too, but he sent me yesterday 3 different clips of one passage. It was like, which vowel is the best vowel? Um, and so that he still trusts my ears, but he's off in Berlin. He has a contract in Berlin,
Yeah.
so like that's fantastic.
Yeah. As we know, the challenging times have presented this difference of the way we're doing things right now. A lot of classical performances aren't happening. Most live performance, especially in the form of singing or choirs, aren't happening. Do you still sing every day, or how are you helping to bring yourself back to center during these chaotic times? Pretty unparalleled times.
Well, let me start by saying dry January is not a thing.
Check.
I, it's really interesting. In a way, I've had to shut it down. I don't sing every day. I
Mhm.
sing sometimes. I have some stuff coming up that I have to do. Actually, that's all video, but I have to get myself in shape. So now I'm singing a little bit.
Yeah.
I'm not finding spiritual comfort in my own music making.
Yeah.
Um, and maybe I'm just like, this is also just kind of how I deal with uh, fright and upheaval like we were experiencing. I don't think we've ever experienced it like this in this country, and um, it may be like we call it like generational trauma that I'm just like, okay, like blindfold on. I mean, like, what are you, blinders? Let's keep going. A
Mhm.
little bit. That's how I'm coping right now.
Yeah.
Um, and then something happens, and I see something or hear something, or I experience something, and it hits me. It's like I can tell my emotions are riding high
Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah. What advice would you have for um, singers coming up? I know as we transition and try to figure out what the world is going to look like, um, how to, what would you offer in terms of advice? Somebody's got the talent, they've got what it takes, how to take the next step or how to keep taking steps. What kind of advice would you offer someone?
I think that the thing in any time, difficult or not, you have to have people around you you trust. Some a colleague of mine put it said you need a board of directors. You need to have 3 or 4 people you go to, I mean, 5 tops, who you go to say, this person said this and I need advice. That, like, what, everything from the absolutely mundane of, like, if I wear my hair like this, is this acceptable at an audition?
Mm.
Um, to this person said I should sing this repertoire, what do you think? Right, that you need to have those people to
Yeah.
go to. There are a million opinions, mine included. And one of the things that bothers me actually about classical vocal education is this idea of, like, you don't know until you have me. You don't have the answers. And I am trying, as a cog in the wheel in classical vocal education, trying really hard to say, you need you, and you need to trust your instincts, and you need to, anybody who says you don't know yourself,
Yeah.
walk away from those people. That's there's a kind of toxicity in that, that's
Mhm.
dangerous, I think, to your life as a human, and that like, as opposed to your life as a singer. And this idea of, like, we can have it all, I don't think that's true. I don't know what it all is actually anymore.
Good point.
um you have to have what feels honest. You have to have what feels true. And there are things that have happened in my life that have gotten me to this point.
Yeah.
And some of them are beautiful and some of them are horrible, but they're the reason that I'm at this point. And I try really hard not to believe in regret, because regret wouldn't have me here now doing this.
That's really beautiful advice. Just putting that both in and finding you can hit the mark, and it informs the way we sing sometimes. Those
It
challenges,
does.
I would
It
say.
does. And like, at this point in my distinctly middle age, I'm I'm looking at the things that matter.
Yeah.
And does it matter if I go sing a role in The Marriage of Figaro if I'm gonna miss my kids' ballet recital? Those are things to weigh.
Yeah.
And the answer 10 years ago would be like, yes, bye, see you, have a good one, right? And now maybe it's a little bit too, because I've had 10 months in the house with my children. Like, how much is worth missing? And I don't know. I was actually saying today, like, I'm trying to find the beauty in first grade at the kitchen table, which is that I get to see her do first grade at the kitchen table. I get to
Yeah.
see how her brain works in class. And sometimes they'll forget that I'm there, and I can really see how they're interacting with their friends and their teachers. I mean, in as much as this is real interaction, but
Yeah.
I can they my little one especially, she likes to like baby talk, and, like, at school she is all business, and it's
Yeah.
really interesting. I wouldn't see that if we weren't doing this.
As we're wrapping this up, I want to ask you, you mentioned costume. Favorite costume, favorite role, favorite part to sing. Do you have favorites? If
Yes,
you had to pick one or two.
yes. My favorite role actually is Susanna in The Marriage of Figaro. She's the maid to the countess. The Marriage of Figaro is my favorite opera,
Mm.
in large part because it's so current. You can um, the stories between the characters could be happening now. In fact, the opening scene, Susanna and her betrothed Figaro are. It's not Figaro. That's the Barber of Seville. Different one. Same story. Beaumarchais wrote 3 plays. Same story, but different composer. Um, they're getting ready. It's their wedding day, and she's trying on her hat for her wedding, and he's measuring the room to see if the bed will fit. So who's thinking about what, right? And
Right.
she's like, honey, honey. And he's like counting, counting, counting. Honey! right? And he goes, "Oh, sorry, you look great." Literally, that is the modern equivalent of that scene. It's and I have basically had that conversation a million times with my husband. Huh? Oh, sorry, you look great. You're, every time you make music that is from before you existed, you're plugging into history,
Yeah.
and you can hear those sounds and feel those sounds a little. I mean, you know, sometimes you really concentrated on the fact that, like, oh my God, I think my dress just came unzipped. But
Yeah. Right.
but a lot of it is that connection. I love history. I love particularly it's weird because it doesn't actually have anything to do with the music I sing, but I love Elizabethan England and the story of Mary
Yeah.
Queen of Scots, and I've always connected to that, and that sort of anytime you get to hear those stories and read the about the way they lived and how they lived and the things that were important, I really I feel like classical music is as close as we're going to get to really knowing.
Yeah. It's beautiful. And it sustains through time. Thank you so much for
Oh,
joining us. And I love that your first name has Aria in it. I know that was not by mistake.
I guess not. I mean, it turned out to be that's a nice coincidence.
Intuition, yes. Somebody was really tapped in when they named you. You're delightful to have you
Wow.
with us. And thank you for what you do and who you are on the planet. Making music and bringing it to life is such a gift. So once again, Arianna
Thank
Zukerman,
you.
where can we find more about you on your website?
On my website is good. Yeah, it's ariannazukerman.com. Yeah, and if you Google my name, every place I've ever sort of burped on stage comes up usually.
Once again, thank you, Arianna. I want to
Thank
say
you very much.
Arianna Zukerman.
Arianna, yeah. Thank you.
Yes, much love
Thank
and
you,
many
Lisa.
blessings to you. And thank you, all of you who've tuned in to watch this morning. And wherever you are on the planet, know that you are loved. Peace and many blessings.
Thanks, Lisa.